about the inflammation and also speak about the people, the very people that have been involved in the seal hunt, or hunting the seal, or harvesting the seal for their clothing, their food, and so forth. And there's much that comes into play when we think about all of that, which I'm going to try to do a very good job of giving you a summary, or at least something to think about. And this is all I can do, is just pass along the education, pass along the information. And by passing along the information to you, it is a food for thought, or you're going to have to do your own research to discover different things, because I did my research on it. The idea with omega-3, and see, if you know anything about omegas, they take up a lot of shelves on the health food store, and they're one of the supplements, one of the very few supplements that are recommended for many of the protocols. If we think about health protocols, from naturopathic doctors to holistic practitioners. And the key reason why that is actually because of this lengthy word that you're hearing more and more, called inflammation. So inflammation, if it's just bluntly I say it, is a component in all conditions and diseases. Anything to do with the brain, which you can find research easy enough that says when there's depression, that they have found inflammation in the brain. We know as simply as headache, got to be some pressure, got to be some swelling, got to be some inflammation. When we think of fevers, that's inflammation. The heat, inflammation can cause swelling, can cause heat, redness. But what we need to understand is the benefit of inflammation. Inflammation is implied as the enemy here. Oh, inflammation is here. Let's just bring down inflammation and we're going to resolve everything. That is not true. Inflammation is your innateness within your body to actually show you or tell you, have you experienced the various symptoms, so that you know there's something going on. So inflammation, in the case of a fever, and you have something, let's say call it a bug in your body, and the fever is caused by the body, not because it's a bad thing, because it's a very good thing. And that fever is killing off. It's aside from making sure that you drink fluids, that you have, not the dehydration fever, the inflammation, the fever is there to actually burn away what it is that you have in your body. If you take down the fever, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for issues. It's almost like sweeping the dirt underneath the carpet, and eventually you're going to trip over the bump. And the body is supposed to be in tune with protecting you. It's a survival mechanism. Vomiting, diarrhea, these are survival mechanisms. Coughing, survival mechanisms. So the body really wants to communicate and wants to protect, and also wants to get rid of it, or get the body healthy enough so that it's not interfering in the long run. But the idea, people, is an anti-inflammatory is not getting at the root cause. It's not at all. The anti-inflammatories, or that's probably NSAIDs, some people might refer them as, the things that are going to take away the headaches, the things that are going to bring down inflammation, are not getting to the root cause. So the simple thing again is, inflammation is not the cause of the disease. It is a symptom. And it seems to be one of these symptoms that is present for all of the diseases and conditions that are out there. So from cancer to MS, to all of the conditions that are labeled itis. So hepatitis, inflammation in the liver. Colitis or colonitis, inflammation in the colon. So you can see the itis is attached to the area of the body, esophagitis. So your esophagus, inflammation in there. So just about every part of your body, add itis to it, and it's meaning that there's inflammation. It doesn't mean they know why you have inflammation in there. And in some cases, it's easy to figure out if people have been drinking a lot of alcohol or eating a certain way, many other things. But the idea where omegas come in is omegas are treated as being anti-inflammatory. Now, we have to draw two things here for you very quickly. When we study the body and we see that particular things in there are doing things, like maybe bringing down inflammation, and let's call them the certain omega-3s, DHA, EPA, let's just say it that way. An omega-3 is bringing down inflammation. They can see what it is. They can see the pathway in which it works, and there you go. It brings down inflammation. Okay, that's one side of it. The other side of it that comes in is all of the supplements that, if under a certain microscope, says that it's that particular, or it's omega-3. Now, whether these supplements actually work to the same degree they observe the body doing what it needs to do is another question entirely. And I only say this because of the research and the understandings I've gotten, not just from reading, but actually from people who studied this directly from them at the University of Toronto. And so when we're thinking about things that do omega-3s and what they do, and they're anti-inflammatory, there's much research. Understanding that omega-3s on the market is huge. It's, last count from one of my presentations a few years ago, 65% of the supplements are driven by omega-3. And that's a lot. So whether that still is there or not, and a few years ago it was, as far as dollars go, way up there. So if you're going to look at omega-3 and their sales, billions of dollars. I didn't say millions, I said billions of dollars. So there's a lot here to be said for, yes, everybody, more and more these conditions are being tied. We know you have inflammation. Take these medications, take these supplements, but are these supplements doing what they need to do for managing inflammation? There's many things that come into play that are more healing, that are helping with inflammation. True, but I'll just stay on point with the omega-3 today and inflammation. So if that makes sense at all, hello Helen and Louis Verne and Debbie, welcome. So I don't know if you have any particular specific questions. While I'm talking away here, feel free to ask anything. But the point I really want to get across here is inflammation is a natural process that the body is able to do and willing to do and wants to do in order to fight. Maybe there's a certain bacteria that's in the body that needs its 3 days to build its antibodies, or it's a pain, an injury or an infection of sorts, and this is the body communicating. So any pain, any discomfort, that is swelling, that is inflammation. But inflammation doesn't necessarily alert you to what's going on in talking that, because inflammation in the brain, we don't really have the senses there, the same way as all senses kind of come in to, touch and smell and stuff like that. So in our brain, we don't quite have the senses that's going to say, besides the headache, which is, the pressure there, unless it's to that degree, and it starts to interfere with nerve function, do you have nerve interference, and therefore it'll come up as the symptoms that relate to that part of the brain. But we don't really sense inflammation. Headache is the best way I can describe it, and that deals with other muscles there as well. When we come to inflammation in omega-3, however, again, we want the body to be, how can I say it? We want the body to be not deficient in the omega-3. And this is one of the biggest things I'll bring up now with omega-3 is the unhealthy omega-3s that are in our market. So the choice of omega-3 is one thing, but the fact that you're getting omega-3 and it's not really the right source, or it's oxidized or gone bad, that is the other question, and that can cause more issues within your health when you are dealing with oxidized. It's like the copper metal being oxidized, it turns to a green. We don't want the oxidation within our blood happening to that point. We want fresh whole foods, and we want those things that come in not to stress our body. So the oils themselves that most people may be consuming, walnut oil, for instance, does not have the same shelf life as the other oils that are out on the market, particularly flax seed oil. That is a huge one, even above walnut oil. It oxidizes quite quickly, and that oxidative, again, that oxidative oil is very stressful in your system. So when it comes to flax seeds being higher in omega-3, at one point they would do a lot of flaxseed oil. I think they've now producing not so much flaxseed oil. We got into grinding flax seeds, so without oxidizing the oil. Now, freshly ground yourself and stored in the freezer is ideal, versus buying it freshly ground. It will be exposed to oxygen that way. Walnut oil, I heard that they put a 12-month expiry date on it, when really it's more like a 1-month expiry. It's like not all oils are created equal. There's more omega-3 in walnut oil than there is in almond, let's say almond oil or almonds. The other thing that can be misleading out there is getting omega-3s in the food. When I did a survey of a couple hundred people, that was one of the things that was on their mind, or on the belief system, that they get enough omega-3 from their food. Now at that time, much of the grains were being tooted with omega-3 label. When I say the grains, I'm talking cereals. Any of those grains, corn, cereals, have omega-3. But what they didn't tell you is the vegetable oils that they put in there, or the natural oils caused from the refining of the grains, and the oils that were added into these product, vegetable oils, were highly oxidized, highly refined, heated, deodorized, chemicals used on top of all that, oxidated fats that can stay in your gut for a month. Years, decades, without changing its form, shape, or smell. And that has now changed. The third thing I wanted to mention, because about food, is the eggs with omega-3 on it. Now, because poultry has, different than plant, one would think that poultry would be the same as mammalian. It's an animal, so it'd be mammalian, but it's not. It's more the shorter chain or plant chain, or somewhere in the middle, but not the long chain that we require. So the eggs are a little bit misleading as well. And it's not that you don't want short chain omegas, you do, but you do not also want it added artificially or pumped up like we do with our cows, and with chickens too much, like on corn. Too much grain, not the grasses, not the insects. See, poultry or chickens should be, and their natural diet would be some grains, of course, and some insects. So just on grains alone would interfere with the type of fats, just the makeup, of the chicken that you're eating. Cows, same thing. They fatten up the cows by using corn. Corn causes inflammation in their system, so that's where the fat toxins, everything will kind of store into the animal fat. It's gotta love the fat for flavor. Gotta love the fat for thinking it's juicy and easier to cook, but it is out of whack when it comes to looking at the omegas. The other thing about food when people are thinking about it is eating fish. And what you need to kind of understand is that the omegas are actually, or that nutrient omega-3, omegas, are actually in fats and oils. That's where they are. And you have other water-soluble nutrients like the B vitamins, and you have that group, and they are in water. Now, protein is water. Sugars, carbs, water. And then on the other side you have fat. And water and fat do not mix. So when we think of fish, and you're consuming fish, and you're going, I'm getting my enough omega-3, Cheryl. Let's look at that a little bit further. The omega-3s are only in the fat. That's it. And where is the fat within the fish? Now, it wasn't too long ago that you would be buying fillets of fish, and that's it. Now you'll see more fish with the skin on it. But if you take off the skin, or you're cooking and you have all the oil dripping, and you don't eat the head, which is the brain, which is more of where the fat is going to be, then you're not getting, if you're just eating the dry fish, let's say even sashimi, the raw fish, they don't have a lot of fat, nor would they have skin, nor would they want to, because it's the fat that's oxidizing. It's the omega-3 that has a natural affinity for oxygen, which is great. If the omega-3 is wholesome, natural, fresh, then that affinity for oxygen is a good thing. However, when the fish, by the time it gets to you, it's already got that fishy kind of smell going on. But they are very good with bringing in fish on a daily basis. And that's why people more and more are asking about fresh. But the omegas that are in the fish are going to be primarily in the head. That's where the majority of them are going to be. Then you're going to get some fat or oils, omega-3, actually underneath the skin. It's that grayish, whitish part. If you've ever taken the fish off a salmon, the skin off of the salmon, it's that part. That's the part you would need to eat. Not the fleshy part, not the protein part. That part is water soluble, and that part of fish, if that's what you're eating, and eating only, and focusing on trying to eat that only, then there is no omega-3 there. Not at all. So you can understand that fish can be a good source of omega-3 only if you understand how the fish comes to be. If the fish is in the wild versus if it's commercial. In the commercial, they'll feed unhealthy grains, not their regular diet. This would cause them to have an imbalance of omega-6 to omega-3. End of story. The other side of fish, naturally, they're higher in omega-6. Now, omega-6 causes inflammation. It causes inflammation, but we know inflammation is a healthy thing. What we're more concerned with is the imbalance of the quality of the omega-6 to omega-3 in our body. Primarily, people are getting a lot of oxidized omega-6 because it's naturally higher in plants. Let's call it seeds. Naturally higher in seeds. Why? Because the plant seeds have to burst open. They have to, it's like an inflammation. The seed is well protected and bundled up everything that's in there to grow a plant. And it's that inflammation, omega-6, the reason why the seeds are higher in omega-6 is because it needs to, burst out of its seed. With fish, why fish are higher in omega-6 is they're in cold water and they need these bursts of energy. And that's why they're higher in omega-6. So we get to understand how things work. Now, the harp seals, mammals, sperm whales, anyway, these mammalian aquatic mammals. These mammalian animals in the ocean are in very, very cold water, and they have these, plentiful of a balanced, for some reason, we're not going to say science knows everything, but a balance of 1-to-1 omega-3 to omega-6. And because it's mammalian, it's actually naturally stable, which we know fish oxidizes, but just because fish oxidizes doesn't mean mammalian will oxidize as quickly or the same way, and naturally stable. So the idea is, what I really want to come across is inflammation is not the bad guy. But if there's too much inflammation and you do not have the healthy balance of omegas within your body, the right omegas, and imbalanced and not oxidized, not cooked, cooked where, and when you cook anything, it doesn't move anymore. As joking as I'm saying it, it doesn't move anymore when you cook things. And it's not as vibrant. It's not as vibrant. We know that to be true with other foods as well, not just meat, but other foods as well. So when I come on here and speak about raw seal oil, I speak to it from one aspect of all the science and the best way to have an omega that's going to give you the most effective result, the efficiency that it's absorbed in the body. But on the other side is to understand, where does it come from? And in all of that research, what I want to spend about 5 minutes here, and this comes into the nature of what continues to go on out there in the world, which is eat meat, don't eat meat, right? And vegan, vegetarian, all these sides around all of that. But I'm just going to kind of go down the middle here, and that is living off the land and living in an environment that's natural and natural to how groups of people on this planet lived for hundreds, thousands of years. I'll say Eskimos, I'll say Inuit. Apparently, depending on where those people reside, they prefer to use Eskimo or they prefer to use Inuit. But these good people, when they do their hunt, it is a prayer and the intention to use the whole animal. We're not talking commercial farming when we're talking about the seal hunt anywhere in the world. The seal hunt that occurs in various areas are a culling of the seals. Now when I say culling, this is what we need to understand. It's no different than going into your garden, going into spaces of your garden and culling back the weeds, because the weeds are growing out of proportion and taking the nutrients. This is the way you can look about culling the seal in the seal hunt. Now, the culling happens in various areas like the St. Lawrence River. Talking to people, just so happen to sit beside somebody who's on a plane, says to me, we call them river rats, Cheryl, because they come here and they decimate the fish and they therefore change the plant life. It's no different if you watch that Yellowstone Park where they had to bring back the wolves to control the deer, because the deer were eating the new shoots of the trees, they were eating the new shoots, right? So culling and having species on our planet in numbers that make sense is a way to be on our planet, the way to be in this world, not the commercial hunting. The commercial hunting, not commercial hunting, commercial growing or raising of livestock. That is a bit crazy for sure, for all the reasons we can go into. But we have to step back and not just brush a big stroke across all of that. Hunting and meat is all bad. It's not. And quite frankly, if people could just understand that they're eating too much, even just that little piece would make a difference. And that's what happens. People don't have 3 ounces burgers, they have a pound burger. And we do not need to do that to our system. So back to the Inuit people and a little bit about the politics that happen. I do want to bring that in. So we went from inflammation to the right omega-3s, right, to then talking a little bit about nature and the seals being in nature, and the seals being food, being clothing, amongst other things for the natives or peoples, even peoples around the world, not just our Arctic Circle. Russia too, they have engaged in seal hunting, and you could say probably north and south poles on that side of it. There's plenty of seals out there. The idea with the politics around it, which I've learned, and you can actually dive into it, is us Canadians up here may know more about this more recently because of Canada and Canada Day not too long ago. Huge apologies for what they've done to the Native people. From, let's call it a little bit of assimilation. If anybody watched Star Trek here, that bringing people together for thinking that we all need to act the same way, and that there's actually ways to do it that's more sane, and other things are barbaric and insane, was the insanity of it all. Pulling the children away from their families so they don't speak their native language. All of that is ludicrous, always has been and always will be. What I want to bring it to the seal thing is, when this whole thing happened, and we're not talking 100 years ago, we're just talking like 70 years ago, when they moved entire villages of the people where they didn't have electricity, where they survived and thrived. And that, that kind of stuff. And there's videos on it. Well, they'll show the videos of them moving and showing them how pompous they are in their speaking about it. But the idea is to kind of bring that further. Certain parties, certain companies, and I don't mind talking to them, Greenpeace, Sea Shepherd, some of these people who make money off of saying to stop the seal hunt, have come out and apologized. Now, we're not talking last year, we're not talking 2 years, 3, 4 years, we're talking a handful of more years ago. And when I ask people if they understood this, the whole Greenpeace, the Stop the Seal Hunt, and what role they played in destroying the Inuit culture, or let's just say their economic independence, because what they ended up doing over decades is making everybody around the world, because it went global, be against all seal furs, seal industry. And that was so not true. Like, the European Union has accepted that the seal and seal products are acceptable in the EU. But by this time, a lot of people have got, how can I say it, negative. They just think about it without having done the research, without really understanding the situation. It was so easy to see people asked questions by various, how can I say, investigative reporters, and not answer it correctly. So for some people out there, in asking the question, they think that they're on extinction, the seals. especially with the commercial hunt. That is not true, and it's never been true. And the bigger thing here with the, again, it's the economics, is the politics of it. But how do you correct something when the train left a station and they don't have the millions? Now they put the millions in, and they put in faces of the, Paul McCartney, other people like that, their faces. And so these apologies do not have, like they're like a grain of sand on a beach when it comes to how this apology is being shared with the people globally, right? Globally. So they really have hurt the economic independence of the Inuit people. And I think independence, when we think of economic and money, is extremely important for any culture to feel like they are contributing, that they are part of something, and that they can do that on their own. So really, I guess in a lot of ways, when we think about the seal hunt, the politics, the health benefits of the seal, the people that have been part of the seal hunt, and actually taking part in the global distribution of the products from the seal, as well as surviving on them, have been very much hurt due to this whole assimilation, this whole Greenpeace stuff. So lots of apologies there from Greenpeace, but nowhere near is the information around that apology, given the the gas pedal, and the how can I say it, the voice, no, that's not happened with that. So on one hand, I wanted to come on today and talk about the benefits of the raw seal oil from the Inuit people, or from the natives of the people, and on the other side, the politics about that and how that is important. So a lot of apologies, but that hasn't changed the law that was put into place for the U.S., where there's a ban or a bill that goes in to say that seal and seal products is not allowed in the U.S. But seals are not extinct. They're nowhere extinct. In fact, they're a bigger issue than ever because of the less of the harvesting of the seals, with all of this poorly communicated information. The key thing is, there's a bit of information here to read. Yes, a bit of information here to read. So I get it. Some people don't want to dive in to do a very good job of being able to discern what's kind of going on here. But when it comes to people's health, the idea that there is actually a source, a raw mammalian source of balanced, naturally toxic-free, stable, of omegas that helps nourish our body over the likes of vegetable oil, over the likes of oxidated fish oil, that exists on this planet, that would help our system, through our nervous system, through our hormonal system, our endocrine system, manage the inflammation, help our body to manage the inflammation. That's really the reason I've done a lot of this research and a lot of this reading, and why I will continue to do so, because I think it's a critical piece of the puzzle of our health, is to have healthy fats. But as a science teacher told me, fats are not like carbs, they're not like protein. The fats are, there's unique fats that go by different names, and I know some of you are familiar with saturated fats, polyunsaturated, but there's omega-6 and omega-3. They each have their own role to play. Now the essential ones are omega-6 to omega-3. That's science. That's science. It seems to be that those very omega-6 and omega-3, from what my research is they play an instrumental role in the cell membrane. And now if we're trillions of cells and then some, we're not just cells, then each and every cell has the ability to, as the DNA, it's your genetic material in there, but it's also, at that level you're looking at communication within the body, and it's part of the cell membrane. So these omegas, part of the polyunsaturated fats, the more fluid fats, they are part of every cell membrane in our body. And these membranes are so important to keeping our cells intact. What needs to be inside, what needs to be outside, what needs to be left outside, what needs to be left inside, what needs to come inside, what needs to go outside. But beyond all of that, there's communication, I'm understanding. And beyond all of that, that these walls, these membranes that need to be made of the healthy fats are also the ability for our healing potential, a way to change the pH, if anybody's familiar with the pH balance, and that it's a storage of information like crystals. If you think about crystals that are on our planet, and you have these different rocks, these different crystals, and you've heard things about them. I'm not an expert at crystals, but the idea is there's this matrix with crystals formed differently from different rocks. There's quartz crystals, and the understanding is these crystals are a matrix-like thing, like you're looking at a scaffolding or something, and that there's information stored in there, which is why some crystals are good for this and some rocks are good for that. But within our body, you can look at our cell membrane as liquid crystals. And I'm just going to end with a little story here, because I never know who has heard this story or not. And I know I'm kind of bringing in quantum physics, metaphysics here alongside, just to give you a really, go from one end to the other, is probably about 4 years ago, I had a reading with a native, so they call them vision quests, but they kind of tap into information that probably exists around us and within us, to see what's kind of coming out. So without knowing too much about anything, imagery is very important here. So with my eyes closed and talking to me about going into the ocean, okay, we're going into the ocean. And with an orca whale, hung around Niagara Falls a lot. So orca whale, yep, comfortable in the ocean, in the sea, and all of a sudden a seal swims up to us, and she says, well, the seal's got a message for you, Cheryl. And I said, okay, seal's got a message. And the seal says this, so I want you to kind of tie in with what I'm saying about their health benefits and the crystal side things, because this will help you understand a little bit more about this message. So the message from the seals is this: we are evolved on this planet, and our oil is wisdom for your cells beyond the biological. Okay, I know it's a mouthful, but our oil, so first of all, I want to very much say this quickly, evolved on this planet. So when I was talking to a semi-retired veterinarian who's big in working with animals across Canada, so not just your cats and your dogs, but 35 plus years in the business, running a veterinarian business, but also doing locum. So and I've lectured along, beside him. And when I told him that part, he says, yes, of course, because when we had the ice age, the seals love the ice. They would thrive and survive when we'd have ice on the planet. So that's that part. So the message again is from the seal was, we are evolved on this planet, and our oil is wisdom for your cells beyond the biological. And I'm just going to leave that there today. So any questions? Just kind of, again, a very quick summary, but I talk to things in depth here, so it might be very well worth it to replay if you're coming on a little bit later. But the idea is, on our planet, we have sources of nutrients. And sources of nutrients are going to come in many different packages and many different bundles, and then, quite frankly, it's how you look at any of that determines what you're deciding to eat and what you're not deciding to eat. Where we have gone astray is actually commercializing raising cows, commercializing chickens, commercializing farmed fish, commercializing large fields of corn, grains, so that whole agricultural part as well is very new for some people's systems anyway. But just think about that commercialized. But we do have plenty of food on our planet in the way of harp seal, which is not extinct and it's not commercialized. We have a lot of wild things that are out there as well, but we're so used to shopping at grocery stores. So that's the idea, is that we do have nutrients on this planet, from the plants over here to the evolved animals, on our planet. And in its natural source, which is not really what we find at the grocery store, in their natural source, they are good nutrients. They're the best nutrients for ourselves. So if you think of picking a dandelion, and hopefully not beside of the road, not has chemical sprayed on it, if you pick a dandelion, that's a strong plant. I know we call them weeds, but they're not really weeds. Weeds only exist because we want a pretty garden, or we want to have nice tidy rows in our garden. But the idea is similar to the seals and similar to other things. You can harvest them and use all of them, and we can harvest dandelions in packets where a lot of them grow and make dandelion tea, make dandelion wine, although I'm not big on promoting alcohol. Use it in salads. I mean, when I travel around now, it's a thing to actually find dandelions and just eat them in the wild. But here, that's the kind of idea, that anything that's kind of overgrown means it's an area that we can pick. If you have a bunch of apple trees in a certain area, go pick the apples, but you're not gonna tear down the apple trees. You won't have a bunch of apples for the next apple season, right, when we can pick them. So the idea is really to better understand all of that in the bigger picture. And the other side of it here with our health is that because we're consuming so many toxins or processed foods, we're not getting the healthy nutrients in our body. And then layer on top of that the amount of stress that people are going through, coming from all different areas, and all different ages. The horrific things that we can talk to, and all of that will put a burden on our body to use up nutrients in the body. Eat too much food, you're using nutrients up in the body to digest, to process, to convert, and to store. That kind of thing. So enough about all of that. So tonight, really, it was to speak, and this is earlier on, about inflammation and its key role in our body. It is not bad. It is not evil. If it is present, you've got to understand that it's there for a reason. It's communicating that you're not doing something, not nourishing your body, not building up toxins in your body, too much stress in your body, and it will let you know. So chronic inflammation is diabetes. Chronic inflammation is cancer. And these things exist as a tumor of a cancer, just quite frankly, is the body is trying to, in its innate way, to bring together those mutated cells, call it cancer, but mutated cells, and store them and keep them there until your body is ready or you've put it in a position where it's ready just to dissolve them. Dissolve them, break them up, release them out of the body. It's really quite simple. I know it's not simple when we're thinking about our uniqueness and what you can do tomorrow. Where do you start? Right? Where do you start? That is definitely a conversation, a consultation, a journey, whatever you want to call it, that part, that uniqueness. But the other parts I've been talking about tonight, is very core and very fundamental to how we can move forward in understanding our choices, that we do have the raw seal oil, and that we do have too much processed food over here, and that inflammation is not the bad, is all bad, is it's being touted as. But quite frankly, I really believe that the reason why they're doing that, and this is on holistic side as well, is because they want you to consume more of the medications to take down the inflammation. End of story. More medications for you. And, it's the quick fix thing, the magic bullet. And really, we need to take that magic bullet and we need to shoot it off into space, into the universe, and get rid of that magic bullet for good, because that's just not how it works. Now, I'm not going to say that if you don't make healthy changes that some things are going to happen very quickly. They can, and I've seen it work with the Harp Seal oil, I've seen it work with cleansing, and so it can. But that's not what's being, how can I say it, the billions or millions of dollars that go into advertising is not to promote the raw seal oil. The Inuit, nor do I, have that much money to go and promote it like a Roots company or any of these big name brands. It just doesn't exist. And so you may think, why haven't we heard this before? Why aren't all the medical doctors, why aren't all the holistic practitioners talking about this? It's an easy question. First of all, most of them are looking for the science and the research to slap them over the face, to try, to put it bluntly, so that they can go, oh, so-and-so said it, so I'm going to believe them. And quite frankly, people will think the same way too. If it's so-and-so that says it, then great, I'm going to believe them. And these so-and-sos may be paid by supplement companies to promote their product, may have their own belief systems that are getting in the way, may not have the same openness in mind in kind of looking at things in a way that kind of simplifies it. Does it make a lot of money? It may not make a lot of money, and that's where I'm learning that even practitioners across the board are, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? I'm just going to leave you, health industry, the health industry, it's a business. It's a money-making industry, and they know it, and in knowing it, they are promoting it, and they'll do that. It's not all doom and gloom by any means. But the uniqueness side here, people, is really about, you really have to understand, well, what are you doing? What do you need to do? Where do you need to start? What things do we all have to consider? Are you on a lot of medications? Do you even believe in this stuff about the body being its ability to heal itself naturally if given the opportunity? So your belief systems are going to be huge in the process as well. But yeah, there's possibilities. That's how we're going to leave the inspired here. Possibilities with just little changes. But we need to stand up, and we need to think for ourselves, as you might be hearing more and more. And that's an important thing. That's also an important thing. So I'm going to leave you with all of that information. It's now been about 50 minutes. I want to understand if there is any questions whatsoever here. There is no way I could cover every nuance here, quote research, and do all of that in less than an hour. In fact, I can tell you I could probably write a book of 1,000 pages on what I just told you. No, never mind 1,000, 10,000 pages on how everything kind of comes together, just to kind of have you understanding things quite easily on many of the different things that I brought forward here. So it's worth it to, if you come on later, it's worth it to review this video again and pull out the different things because it's jam-packed with different things here, different concept, different understanding. But again, your uniqueness is going to come into play. Everybody's stresses are unique. Your beliefs are unique. Your feelings and emotions that you have that are causing somebody the stress, that's going to be unique. So working on the consulting, the counseling part with people, you're unique. You're unique. And you may not be unique because you've got a disease or a condition like many other thousands and millions of people, but that may be similar, but there's definitely uniqueness to more. There's going to be similarities, but there's definitely uniqueness. But my reason for doing this is really quite simple. I know we can, work with healing the body naturally. And the other part that just kind of gets me a little riled up is the fact that I will read the diabetes stats, the cancer stats of all these conditions. And with all the millions of dollars that are going into these businesses, I'll call them, there is no glowing number that's coming out. What's coming out is it's only going to get worse, and it's blowing up like inflammation in numbers. Crazy. I said this about diabetes. There's a map on there, and I don't think there's one country in this planet of ours that has no type 2 diabetes. It's crazy. And the percentage that they have, and the expectations by percent that they have, some countries, they have a percent of 100% increase in the next few years, several years. 100%. It's insane. Having traveled to Peru, having traveled to various countries, I don't know if there's one country, and there probably is, that doesn't have cans of Coca-Cola. I mean, I was at the Reed Islands in Peru, so the further south of Peru, and Reed Islands. So it's a tourist destination because these people have all these reeds around there just because of the water, and they have to redo it, but they're like floating islands made out of reeds, and they're constantly kind of having to renew it over. But anyway, you take the boat over and you go there, and I'm walking around after we get our little demo, and I'm peeking in and around, and I'm looking, and I see the big 2-liter plastic pop bottles empty beside these huts. I see a little girl, and I actually got a picture of it. She might have been 3, sometimes height, it's not, from one culture to the next, not the same, but this young little girl, cute in her Peruvian garb for the Reed Islands, is standing there at about, I'd like to say 10 o'clock in the morning, with holding a little bag of, I'm going to say Cheetos. I don't know if it's Cheetos. I'd have to look back at it. But holding these little Cheetos, munching on these Cheetos. Then we go to another Reed Island where it's time to get off, and there's a couple of huts there where you can get a beverage or, I don't know, some fried food. I wasn't going to buy it anyway, but you could buy something. And get back in our boat, and I see the guide hop into the boat. Now it's hot. It's not cold, it's hot. And he jumps into the boat with not water, but 2 cans of pop. 2 cans of pop. So after seeing that a handful of years ago in some other situations, be it in the islands, Coke manufacturing plants in, where was I? Which island? Was it Bahamas? Might have been Bahamas. They were so grateful for this Coca-Cola plant to for employee, being employees there, hiring, the people there. And it just, you don't say anything. You just kind of take in the information and go, wow, they're so happy, they've got jobs, but they're inside all day on one hand, and they're having this food that is absolutely highly processed. So anyway, the idea is, back to all these conditions, there doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel, according to these organizations, health fundraising companies, that we're doing anything right, that the majority of people are doing anything right. So I'm going to leave that with you as far as that goes, and go on and check it out. You want a little bit of motivation, inspire, see for yourself, go on and check. Just go to the International Diabetes Association and look for some. It's I think you have to access it at the bottom. It's tricky to find some, but a map. I'll try to put the link here as well. But I'm going to end it. I'm going to end it now. As far as this video on omegas, inflammation, the Inuit people, and all of that. I don't see that there's any questions here. Possibly there's some questions later. You can answer it here. I'll upload this video also to YouTube and share it there. But thanks everybody for coming on board. I hope you learned something. I hope you got inspired by something. And feel free to share it. The key thing is just, sharing anything that makes sense, that can help people, inspire people, because there's really a lot of people out there that think they are, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. They feel stuck in, they just feel stuck in their health, stuck in what that means and how they feel. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So we can absolutely help each other by sharing or inspiring, and that'd be a great thing. So take care, everyone. Thanks for coming on board again. And if you came on a little bit later, I encourage you to go back and listen to the earlier parts, because I didn't kind of summarize all of it. But I'm grateful for you all coming on and at least hearing this information yourself. Take care, best of health, and we will see you again on another video. Bye for now.